In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the keyboards on this beat-up old Acu-Rite MillPWR 2. Now the keyboards come as a soft key and matrix set, and we do sell these on our website. I'll put a link to that in the video description. These are brand new, factory originals. Okay, so to start, we're going to take out the case screws that hold the front and the back together. And there's 6 of them. There's one that's actually pretty easy to miss. That's right there. Now, if you're going to be using an electric screwdriver, I recommend having the clutch on the lowest possible setting, because if you use too much force, the plastic pegs in the bezel can break off. Okay, so now that we've got our case apart, we're just going to gently lay our front down on something soft like a towel. Okay, so now the whole front assembly has to come off, and we're going to start by removing the keyboards that we'll be replacing. These connections just wiggle free. It's pretty easy. Everything else you can just clip that off. It only goes back in one place, so there really isn't anything to lose or worry about there. And we're just going to go around and take the rest of the screws out. Okay, so now we have to pry off the keyboards that we're going to be replacing, and you don't have to be polite with these. This set is really dried out, so it's just breaking up and giving me a lot of trouble here, but hopefully yours will come off a little easier. Usually they do. I think this one's just being difficult because we're making a video on it. And once you're done with that, you can just throw it in the trash. We're never going to need that again. Bye-bye. Okay, so now I'm going to use some screwdrivers and a heat gun to remove the matrices underneath the keypads that we just took off. And these do take a little bit of work. You just got to kind of play it by ear, heat them up, and try and find a corner, work at that. Now, there is a clip on the back side. I should have taken this off first. I just forgot to. It doesn't really matter at this point, so I'm just going to take it off now. But you do want to put that aside because we're going to need that later. And since we're in here, I'll just go ahead and take it off the smaller keypad as well. And we'll do the same thing for our lower keypad. Okay, so now we're going to take our newer matrix and just peel off the stickum on the back there. These are keyed so that they can only go one way, so you don't really have to worry about getting that backwards. And we're just going to slide that in and just make sure that our holes line up before we press that down. So just use a little bit of pressure. Don't go all the way until you're sure that the holes line up, and then you can go through and give it a little smooth over. Make sure that's the adhesion's getting a good grip there. Okay, so now on the back we're going to put that tab back that we just took off. Okay. And now we're going to take our soft key and then lay this in over top. So again, this is keyed so it only goes one way. And just what I like to do with these is get them lined up and then just kind of roll it into place. The lower keypad is a little easier than the top one. You'll see why in a second. But you can just kind of lay it over top, and just kind of get your holes lined up, get them going through there. And then once you got everything through, you can flip it over and just give the tabs a gentle tug on the other side. And what this does is it pulls the keyboard in tight and locks it in place. Now, just be gentle with these because you can rip them off. You got to use a lot of force to do that, but just be gentle. You can't put it back. It's just kind of like a rubber band. If you pull it too much, it'll snap on you. So now we're going to do the same thing for our larger keypad. This one's a little bit trickier just because it's a bigger area to deal with. Once again, the keypad is keyed so it only goes in the one way. So we're going to slide our ribbon strip through and just lay this down real gently and make sure that our holes line up just like before. And they do, so I'm going to go ahead and smooth that down. It's a nice good fit there. Make sure that we get in around all of our keyhole divots. And then flip this over and put our tab back in on the other side. So now we don't have to worry about that anymore. That's over and done. Okay, so now we're going to put our large keypad in. And this one's a bit trickier than the smaller one. Reason being, there's just a lot more keyholes you got to line up. So rather than trying to do this all in one shot, what I like to do is I'll just get some of them in and then kind of pull the band through on the back just to seat it. And then I'll just kind of work them in a few at a time until you get the whole thing. And just make sure that you got a nice seat there and everything is good and tight to the board. So now we can put our case back together. Now you're going to want to make sure that these wires don't get pinched right here for our LED backlight. And the rest of this is pretty simple. Just make sure that those wires don't get pinched. You're not pinching anything down. And then just go around and put your screws back where you took them out before. You can plug your ribbon cables back in. That's real easy. They just wiggle right in there. Now this last one is a little bit tricky, so what I like to do is I'll just get everything else in place and then I'll lean the case forward so that the ribbon cable isn't stretching too much, and then I'll put that last screw in right there. And that should be it for our case. Now we can just put this back together and then put our case screws back in. No big deal there. Again, just don't use your screwdriver on too high of a clutch power because you can break those posts off. Okay, so we're ready to rock. So just plug it in, turn it back on, and I'll show you how to do a quick diagnostic test. So we hit Setup, go to Installation, punch in our supervisor password 8891, enter. And then we're going to go down to Diagnostics. We're going to find the keypad test. And you just go through and press your buttons and make sure they all work. You can see as I'm pressing the button right there, they respond on the screen. So you got a visual indicator that the unit is sensing all of these buttons that we just put in. So just go through and test your keyboard, make sure that all works, and that's pretty much all there is to that. And you're good to go again. And you can just back out of this by hitting cancel and mount this back on your setup, and you're good to go. All right, enjoy your new keyboards. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us by phone or email or leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.